I stood outside a bar on Soi Buakau in Pattaya, watching a young Thai woman serve drinks to a group of drunk Australian tourists. She was smiling, laughing, playing the same role she'd played with my son 6 months earlier. The same role that had cost Tyler $40,000 and nearly cost him his life. My hand was in my pocket, gripping my phone. On it was a recording I'd spent 4 days obtaining: video evidence, bank transfers, confession, everything I needed to destroy the woman who destroyed my boy. I'd spent 30 years as a police sergeant in Boston. Dealt with thieves, murderers, rapists, every kind of criminal you can imagine. But I'd never felt rage like this. Not professional anger. Personal. Because this wasn't some stranger committing a crime against the public. This was a predator who'd targeted my son, who'd looked at Tyler's kindness and loneliness and seen opportunity, who'd called him husband while planning how to take everything he had. I wasn't here for revenge. I was here for justice. And in the next 10 minutes, Pawini Supachai, everyone called her Dow, was going to understand what it meant to scam a cop's kid. If you've been enjoying the stories I create, please consider hitting the subscribe button. Your support is crucial for the growth of this channel and helps me dedicate time to making these videos, despite my commitment to a full-time job. Thank you for being here. I retired from the Boston Police Department in 2017 after 32 years on the force. Started as a patrol officer in Dorchester, worked my way up to detective, spent my last 15 years as a sergeant in the robbery homicide division. I'd seen the worst humanity had to offer. Learned to read people, spot lies, understand how criminals think. My son Tyler was nothing like the people I'd spent my career chasing. He was gentle, trusting. The kind of kid, even at 32, I still thought of him as a kid who'd help a stranger change a tire in the rain. He'd followed his mother's temperament more than mine. Linda had passed away from breast cancer in 2015. Tyler took it hard, harder than me, even. He'd always been close to his mother. Tyler worked as an HVAC technician. Good job, steady income. He'd married his high school girlfriend Jessica when he was 24. I'd thought they'd make it. But the marriage fell apart in 2018. No drama, no infidelity. Just two people who'd grown into different directions. The divorce was amicable, but Tyler was devastated. He'd built his whole adult life around Jessica. When she left, he didn't know who he was anymore. I tried to help, invited him over for Sunday dinners, took him to Red Sox games, talked when he wanted to talk. But Tyler withdrew, worked overtime constantly, 70, 80 hours a week. Came home to an empty apartment, barely had friends, didn't date, just worked and slept and worked again. In early 2019, Tyler mentioned he was taking a vacation. First one in years, going to Thailand with a buddy from work. 10 days. I was relieved. He needed a break. Needed to get out of Boston. See something different. Maybe it would help him move forward. Tyler left in March. Sent me a few texts while he was there. Having a good time. Weather was great. Food was incredible. Normal vacation stuff. He came back in late March and seemed lighter, happier. Said Thailand had been amazing. Exactly what he needed. Over the next few months, Tyler seemed different. Not withdrawn anymore. Energetic. Smiling. He'd mention Thailand occasionally. How beautiful it was. How kind the people were. How much he'd liked it. I was glad. Whatever had happened there had helped him heal from the divorce. In June, Tyler mentioned he'd met someone in Thailand. A woman. Her name was Dow. They'd been talking since his trip. Video calls. Messages. She was sweet. Different from American women. More traditional. Caring. He really liked her. I felt a warning bell in my cop brain. Thai woman. American man with money. Long-distance relationship. But I didn't say anything. Tyler was an adult. He deserved happiness. Maybe this was legitimate. Not every international relationship was a scam. In August, Tyler asked to borrow money. $5,000. Said Dow needed help with rent. She'd lost her job. Was struggling. He wanted to help her, but didn't have liquid cash. Could I lend him $5,000? He'd pay me back in 2 months. I said no, not because I didn't have it, but because this was a red flag. You don't send money to someone you've known for 5 months who lives on the other side of the world. I told Tyler, if she's real, she'll understand you can't send money. If she disappears over $5,000, she was never real to begin with. Tyler was hurt. Said I didn't understand. Dow wasn't like that. She'd never asked for anything. This was an emergency. He was just trying to help someone he cared about. Fine, he'd figure it out himself. Didn't need my help. We didn't talk for 2 weeks. Then Tyler called. Apologized. Said I'd been right to be cautious. But he'd sent Dow the money anyway, pulled it from his savings. And she'd paid him back already. Every dollar. She'd gotten a new job. Didn't need help anymore. Just needed a bridge. See? She was honest. Real. Not a scammer. I was skeptical, but relieved. Maybe I'd been wrong. Maybe Tyler had found something genuine. Over the next few months, Tyler talked about Dow constantly. She was amazing, beautiful, kind. Wanted to leave Thailand, come to America, be with him, get married, build a life together. He'd never been this happy, not even with Jessica. In November, Tyler told me he was sending Dow money for a visa. $8,000. Processing fees, lawyer costs, documentation. She'd start the application process in December. Be in Boston by February. I asked if he'd verified those costs. $8,000 seemed high. Tyler said Dow had shown him quotes from immigration lawyers. It was legitimate. This was what it cost to bring a Thai fiancé to America. I didn't argue, just said be careful, make sure everything's documented. Tyler assured me it was. In January 2020, Tyler called with exciting news. Dow had a business opportunity. Her friend was selling a cafe in Pattaya, prime location, established customer base. Needed $40,000. If Dow could buy it, she'd have income, security. Wouldn't have to rely on Tyler. She'd be an independent business owner. Partnership, equals. Tyler wanted to invest, help Dow buy the cafe. Then when she came to America, they'd have an asset, income-generating property in Thailand. Smart investment. I said absolutely not. $40,000 to someone you've never met in person since March? Someone you've only known 10 months? That's insane. Don't do it. Tyler said I was being paranoid. Dow had shown him everything. Business license, seller contract, photos of the cafe, bank statements showing the seller's account. This was real, documented, legal. He was investing in their future. I said, if it's real, wait until she's in America. Verify everything in person. If she's legitimate, she'll understand. If she's not, you'll know. Tyler said I was being controlling, trying to ruin his happiness. He was 32 years old. He could make his own decisions. He was doing this with or without my blessing. I said, fine, do what you want, but you're making a mistake. We stopped talking after that. In early February, I got a call from Tyler's landlord. Tyler hadn't paid rent in 6 weeks, wasn't answering his door, wasn't going to work. The landlord was concerned, wondered if I could check on him. I drove to Tyler's apartment in Quincy, used my key, found him sitting in a dark living room in sweatpants, unshaven. The place smelled. Dishes piled in the sink. Empty takeout containers everywhere. Tyler looked like hell. I asked what happened. Tyler just stared at the wall, said she was gone. Dow was gone. Phone disconnected. Social media deleted. The cafe didn't exist. The $40,000 was gone. Everything was gone. He'd sent the money in January. She'd told him the purchase was complete. She'd send photos when it was fully transferred. Then one day, she just stopped responding. Her line messages weren't delivering. Her phone number was invalid. The cafe address she'd given him didn't exist. He'd tried contacting her on Facebook. Her account was deleted. Everything. She'd vanished. Tyler had lost $40,000. His entire savings. Money from selling the house after the divorce. Money from 3 years of overtime. Gone. I sat down next to my son, 32 years old, crying like a child, saying he'd been so stupid. How could he have fallen for this? How could he have been so blind? I put my arm around him. Told him it wasn't his fault. These people were professionals. They knew how to manipulate, how to build trust, how to make it feel real. Tyler said he wanted to die. What was the point? He'd lost everything, been destroyed by someone he'd thought loved him. He was worthless, pathetic. That's when I made my decision. I wasn't going to let this stand. I wasn't going to watch my son collapse because some Thai bar girl had decided he was easy money. I'd spent 30 years catching criminals. I'd catch one more. I told Tyler, I'm going to fix this. I'm going to Thailand. I'm going to find this woman, and I'm going to make sure she faces consequences. Tyler said it was pointless. The money was gone. She was gone. The Thai police wouldn't help. Everyone said romance scams were impossible to prosecute. I said I don't care. Nobody hurts my son without answering for it. 2 days later, I booked a flight to Bangkok. I landed at Suvarnabhumi Airport on a Friday morning in late February. I was 67 years old, retired, in a foreign country where I didn't speak the language or know the legal system. But I'd spent 32 years investigating criminals. I knew how to find people who didn't want to be found. Dao thought she could disappear. She was wrong. I'd spent the week before the flight preparing. Gathered everything Tyler had. Screenshots of their conversations. Photos Dao had sent. Videos. Her phone number. Her line ID. Her Facebook profile before it was deleted. The address she'd given for the cafe. Bank transfer record showing Tyler's $40,000 going to an account in her name. Everything. I'd also contacted a private investigator in Bangkok. Guy named Somchai, different from the million other Somchais in Thailand who specialized in helping foreigners track down romance scammers. He'd been recommended by an American expat forum. $5,000 up front. He'd help me find Dao and gather evidence. Work with Thai police, if possible. Somchai picked me up at the airport. 40-ish, former Thai military, spoke excellent English. He'd read Tyler's case file, said it was textbook bar girl scam. Meet foreign tourist. Build connection. Maintain contact after he leaves. Extract money. Disappear. Happened thousands of times annually in Thailand. I asked if we could find her. Somchai said probably. Bar girls usually stayed in the same areas, moved between bars but didn't leave the tourist zones. If Dao had been working in Pattaya when Tyler met her, she was likely still there. Different name, different bar, but same city. We just had to ask around, offer money for information. Someone would recognize her. We drove straight to Pattaya, about 2 hours southeast of Bangkok. I'd never been to Thailand before. The drive was chaotic. Motorcycles everywhere. Aggressive drivers. Heat that felt like sitting in an oven. But I was focused, had a mission, wasn't here to sightsee. Pattaya was exactly what I'd expected from Tyler's descriptions and internet research. Tourist city, bars everywhere, neon signs. Foreign men walking with Thai women young enough to be their daughters. It was depressing, predatory, but also where we'd find Dao. Somchai checked us into a hotel on 2nd Road. Basic, but clean. We dropped our bags and immediately started working. First stop, the bar where Tyler had met Dao. He'd given me the name. A place called Secrets Bar on Soi Buakaw. Medium-sized beer bar. Open, air seating, pool table. Exactly like 50 other bars in the area. We went there that evening. Sat down. Ordered beers. I showed the bartender a Thai woman in her 40s, a photo of Dao. Asked if she recognized her. The bartender looked carefully. Said maybe. Girl looked familiar. But lots of girls worked there over the years. Hard to remember everyone. I offered her 2,000 baht, about $60, if she could tell me anything. The bartender thought harder. Said yes, she remembered. Girl's name was Dao. Worked there about 6 months. Left suddenly in January. Didn't say why. Didn't say where she was going. The bartender hadn't seen her since. I asked if anyone knew where Dao went. The bartender said, try the other bars. Ask around. Girls talked. Someone would know. Over the next 3 days, Somchai and I visited 37 bars in Pattaya. Soi Buakaw, Walking Street, Soi Diana, Soi Honey, everywhere. Showed Dao's photo. Offered money for information. Most people said they didn't know her. A few recognized her but didn't know where she was. One girl said Dao had mentioned moving to Bangkok. Another said she'd heard Dao went to Chiang Mai. Nobody had concrete information. By the 4th day, I was frustrated. Pattaya had hundreds of bars, thousands of bar girls. Finding one specific woman who didn't want to be found felt impossible. Maybe Tyler was right. Maybe this was pointless. Then we caught a break. Somchai talked to a motorcycle taxi driver who worked near Soi Buakaw. The driver recognized Dao's photo, said he'd driven her many times, thought he'd seen her recently. Different hair color, but same face. She was working at a bar near Swai Korphai, place called Tiger Den. Samchai and I went there that evening. Smaller bar. Darker. Fewer customers. I sat at a table in the back. Samchai went to the bar, ordered a drink, started chatting with the bartender. Showed him Dao's photo casually. Asked if she worked there. The bartender said no, never seen her. But then a girl came out from the back, early 20s. Saw the photo, said that's B. She works here. She's not working tonight. Has the night off. Comes back tomorrow at 7 p.m. Bingo. I had to be smart about this. I couldn't just walk up to Dao and accuse her. She'd deny everything. Disappear again. I needed leverage. Evidence. Something that would force her to face consequences. Samchai suggested a strategy. We'd record everything. Confront her in a way that would make her confess. Get her on video admitting she'd scammed Tyler. Admitting she'd lied. That confession would be evidence. Then we'd take it to police. With documented proof of fraud bank transfers plus confession, they might actually pursue charges. I agreed. But I wanted to talk to a lawyer first. Understand what legal options existed. What charges could be filed. What evidence would be needed. Samchai connected me with a Thai lawyer named Kun Vira. He specialized in helping foreigners navigate Thai legal system. Fraud cases. Property disputes. Immigration issues. He'd seen hundreds of romance scam cases. We met at his office in Pattaya the next day. I showed Kun Vira everything. Tyler's bank transfers. Screenshots of conversations. Photos Dao had sent. The fake cafe documents. The evidence was substantial. Kun Vira said this was definitely prosecutable as fraud. Dao had made false representations, claimed to be someone she wasn't, claimed the cafe existed, promised Tyler a business investment that was fictitious. She'd obtained money through deception. That's fraud under Thai law. The challenge was getting Thai police to actually pursue it. Romance scam cases were common. Police had limited resources. Unless the victim was in Thailand and willing to testify, most cases went nowhere. And even then, prosecutions were rare. But if I could get a confession on video and combine it with the documentary evidence Tyler had, and if I was willing to stay in Thailand to see it through, then maybe police would act. Kun Vira said he'd prepare the paperwork, draft an official complaint. If I could get the confession, he'd file immediately with the Pattaya police station. They'd have enough evidence to at least investigate, maybe issue a warrant, maybe arrest Dao and charge her. But Kun Vira warned, even if everything went perfectly, recovery of money was unlikely. $40,000 was probably long gone, spent, sent elsewhere. The most I could hope for was justice. Prosecution, making sure Dao faced consequences. I said that was enough. The money mattered to Tyler. But what mattered more was making sure this woman couldn't do this to anyone else, and making sure Tyler knew his father had fought for him. That evening, Samchai and I went back to Tiger Den, arrived at 7 p.m., positioned ourselves at different tables. I sat in the back corner, dark enough that I wouldn't be obvious, but I'd have a clear view. Samchai sat at the bar with a small camera hidden in his jacket pocket. We'd record everything. At 7:15, Dao walked in. She looked different from Tyler's photos. Shorter hair, dyed lighter, wearing heavier makeup, but it was definitely her. Same face, same build, same walk. She was now going by B, apparently. New identity, new victims. Dao worked the bar like a professional, smiled at customers, flirted, brought drinks, sat with men, made them feel special. It was a performance, practiced, calculated. She knew exactly what she was doing. I watched her for 2 hours, seething. This was the woman who'd destroyed my son, who'd called him husband while planning to rob him, who'd made Tyler believe he'd found love after his divorce, who'd taken $40,000 and vanished, and now she was doing it again to some other poor bastard. Around 9 p.m., Dao took a break. Went outside to smoke. Samchai followed casually. I waited 60 seconds, then went out. Stood near her, but not too close. Lit a cigarette I'd quit years ago, but bought a pack for this moment. Established proximity without being threatening. Dao looked at me, smiled politely, said something in Thai. I didn't respond, just looked at her. Let the moment stretch. I wanted her to feel something was off before I said anything. Finally, I spoke. Pawane Supachai. Or are you B now? Hard to keep track. Her face changed. Smile disappeared. Recognition. Fear. She took a step back, said in English, "I don't know you." I pulled out my phone, showed her a photo. Tyler and Dow together. Selfie from his Thailand trip. She'd sent it to him. Big smile, arms around him. "Husband," she'd written in the caption. I said, "You know my son, Tyler. Remember him? American guy. HVAC technician. Sent you $40,000. Then you disappeared." Dow's eyes went wide. She looked around, checking if anyone was watching. She said quietly, "I don't know what you're talking about." I said, "Yes, you do, Tyler Callahan. You called him your future husband, convinced him to send money for a cafe that didn't exist, then blocked him and vanished. I'm his father. And I flew halfway around the world to find you. So don't tell me you don't know what I'm talking about." Dow tried to push past me. I didn't move, blocked her path. I said, "We can do this easy or hard. Easy. You talk to me, explain what happened, return some of the money. I file a police report, but maybe they go easy on you. Hard. I make this messy, loud, public. Get every bar owner in Pattaya to know your face and your name. Make sure you can never work in this city again. Your choice." She was panicking, breathing fast. She said, "The money is gone. I don't have it. I can't give it back." I said, "Where did it go?" She looked around again, whispered, "My boyfriend. He has it. He made me do it. He finds foreigners. I talk to them. Get the money. Give it to him. He controls everything." I said, "What's his name? Where is he?" She said, "I can't tell you. He'll hurt me." I said, "Pawini, right now you're facing fraud charges. You're looking at prison time. Your boyfriend isn't here. I am, and I have evidence. Bank transfers, messages, photos, everything. You cooperate? Maybe I help you. Maybe I tell the police you were forced. Reduce your sentence. But you need to give me his name and his location. Now." Samchai had been recording everything. The camera in his jacket had captured the entire conversation. We had her admission. She'd acknowledged Tyler, acknowledged taking the money, acknowledged a boyfriend who made her do it. Dow was crying now, quietly. She said, "His name is Arun. Arun like Sono. He lives in Udon Thani. I send him money. He said we'd get married, open a business together. But he just takes money. From me. From the foreigners. From everyone." I said, "How many foreigners have you done this to?" She hesitated, then said, 5, maybe 6. I don't remember all of them. Arun finds them online. I talk to them when they visit. Then after they leave, I stay in contact. Get money. Send it to Arun. I said, "How much total?" She said, "I don't know. Maybe $200,000. Over 2 years. $200,000. 6 victims. Tyler was one of 6. This was a professional operation. And Dow was claiming she was a victim too. Forced by her boyfriend. Maybe that was true. Maybe it wasn't. Either way, she'd participated. She'd lied. She'd taken my son's money. I said, "Here's what's going to happen. Tomorrow, you're going to meet with me, my investigator, and my lawyer. You're going to tell us everything. On camera. How this works. How many people. Where the money went. Everything. Then we're going to the police. You cooperate, I'll tell them you were coerced. Maybe that helps you. Maybe it doesn't. But you're going to face consequences. Understand?" Dow nodded. She looked defeated. Small. Nothing like the confident woman in Tyler's photos. I said, "Be at this address tomorrow at 10 a.m. Don't run. I already have enough evidence to find you again. And next time, I won't be nice." I handed her a paper with Kunvira's office address. Then Samchai and I walked away. Dow showed up at Kunvira's office the next morning. She looked exhausted, scared. But she came. That was something. Maybe she really was trapped by this Arun guy. Maybe she saw cooperation as her only way out. We sat in a conference room. Me, Samchai, Kunvira, and Dow. Kunvira had a video camera on a tripod. He explained in Thai that this was a formal interview. Everything would be recorded. She had the right to remain silent. But if she cooperated, it would help her case. Dao agreed to talk. Over the next 2 hours, she told us everything. The operation was run by Arun Laksono. He was 38, from Udon Thani province in northeastern Thailand. He'd been running romance scams for years. He'd recruit women, usually bar girls or struggling young women, and train them. The system was simple. Women would befriend foreign tourists in Pattaya, Phuket, or Bangkok, build connections, exchange contact information. After the foreigner left Thailand, the women would maintain contact, text, video calls, build relationships, make the men fall in love. Then came the requests, small at first. Rent money, phone bill, nothing that would trigger alarm. Just a girlfriend asking for help. Most men would send it, felt good to help, made them feel needed. Once trust was established, larger requests, sick family member, business opportunity, visa costs. The amounts would increase, thousands, tens of thousands. The women would provide fake documents, hospital bills, business contracts, visa applications, all forged by Arun's network. When the money was sent, it would go to Thai bank accounts controlled by Arun. He'd withdraw it immediately, convert to cash, move it through multiple accounts. By the time the foreigner realized they'd been scammed, the money was untraceable. Arun would keep 80%, give 20% to the women. Dao said from Tyler's $40,000. She'd received $8,000. The rest went to Arun, but Dao said Arun rarely actually paid the women their share. He'd promise it, use it as motivation, but then would say there were expenses, other costs, fees. The women would end up with much less than promised. Dao said from $8,000 owed, she'd only received $3,000. Arun kept the rest, said he'd pay later, never did. I asked why she didn't leave, why she continued working for him. Dao said Arun had leverage. He knew where her family lived, her father, her younger sister. He'd threatened them. Said if she tried to stop, or if she talked to police, her family would be hurt. She was trapped. Kunvira asked if she had proof of the threats, messages, recordings, anything. Dao showed her phone, line messages from Arun, threatening language, photos of her family's home, implicit threats about what would happen if she didn't cooperate. It was damning for Arun, but also complicated for Dao. Yes, she'd been threatened, but she'd also actively participated, lied to Tyler, maintained the deception for months, taken his money. She wasn't just a victim, she was an accomplice. Kunvira said we had enough evidence to file charges against both Dao and Arun. Dao for fraud, Arun for conspiracy to commit fraud, extortion, and money laundering. The question was whether Dao would testify against Arun. If she did, prosecutors might offer her a reduced sentence. If she refused, she'd face the full charges. Dao said she'd testify. She wanted out, wanted protection from Arun, wanted this to end. She'd tell police everything, help them catch Arun. Just please protect her family. Kunvira said he'd arrange protective measures, talk to police about relocation assistance for Dao's family. It wasn't guaranteed, but possible. First step was filing the official complaint. We went to Pattaya police station that afternoon, brought all the evidence, Tyler's bank transfers, screenshots, photos, Dao's, video confession, the line messages from Arun, everything. The officer who took our report was surprisingly receptive. Usually romance scams were dismissed, but we had a willing witness, documentary evidence, a named suspect with location. This was prosecutable. The officer said they'd open an investigation, issue a warrant for Arun, contact police in Udon Thani. Dao would need to stay in Pattaya, cooperate fully. She'd likely face charges, but her cooperation would be considered during sentencing. For me, I'd need to stay in Thailand at least a few more weeks, give statements, be available for questions. Tyler would need to come too. As the victim, his testimony would be important. I called Tyler that night, told him what I'd found, that Dao was real, that she'd confessed, that there was a boyfriend who'd orchestrated everything, that police were investigating, that there might actually be consequences. Tyler was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "Dad, why did you do this? You flew to Thailand for me?" I said, "Of course I did. You're my son. Nobody hurts you without answering for it." Tyler started crying, said he didn't deserve it. He'd been so stupid, so trusting. He'd ignored every warning sign, sent $40,000 to someone he barely knew. He'd destroyed himself. I said, "Tyler, listen to me. You were targeted by professionals, people who do this for a living. You made mistakes, but you're not stupid. You're human. And humans want connection, want love. These people weaponize that. It's not your fault." Tyler said he'd come to Thailand, face Dow, testify, help put these people away. He wanted to be part of getting justice. I said, "Okay. Book a flight." I'd wait for him. We'd do this together. Tyler arrived in Pattaya a week later. He looked better than when I'd found him in his dark apartment. He'd been back to work, seeing a therapist, starting to rebuild. But he was nervous about seeing Dow again. I prepared him, told him Dow wasn't the person from his photos. She'd been playing a role. The woman he'd meet in court wouldn't be his girlfriend. She'd be a stranger, a criminal. Someone who'd hurt him deliberately. He needed to see her that way, not as the woman he'd loved, but as the scammer she actually was. The preliminary hearing was in late March. Dow was charged with fraud by false representation. Maximum sentence, 5 years. The prosecutor was also pursuing charges against Arun for conspiracy, extortion, and money laundering. He'd been arrested in Udon Thani 2 weeks earlier, was fighting extradition to Pattaya for trial. At the hearing, Tyler had to give a statement. Describe how he met Dow, how the relationship developed, the money he'd sent, the promises she'd made, the fake documents, the eventual disappearance. Tyler did well, spoke clearly, showed the evidence, the bank transfers, the messages, the photos of the cafe that didn't exist. The prosecutor was impressed, said Tyler's testimony was strong. Clear case of fraud. Dow also testified, explained how she'd been recruited by Aaron, trained to target foreigners, threatened when she tried to leave. She expressed remorse for what she'd done to Tyler, said she was sorry, that she'd been trapped in a terrible situation, but that didn't excuse her actions. Tyler listened without expression. When Dow looked at him during her testimony, he didn't react, just sat there stone-faced. I was proud of him. He was holding it together. The judge set a trial date for June, said both Dow and Arun would be tried. Dow's cooperation would be considered during sentencing. If convicted, she'd likely receive reduced sentence due to coercion evidence, but she'd still face prison time. Tyler and I stayed in Thailand for another 2 months, gave additional statements, met with prosecutors, prepared for trial. It was expensive flights, hotels, legal fees, investigator costs, but I didn't care. This was about justice, about showing Tyler that bad people faced consequences, that you don't just give up when criminals win, you fight. The trial in June lasted 3 days. Arun was defiant, claimed he'd done nothing wrong, said any money he'd received was gifts from Dow. Not connected to fraud, he was just her boyfriend, knew nothing about scams, but the evidence was overwhelming. Bank records showing money from 6 different foreigners going into accounts Aaron controlled, line messages coordinating the scams. Dow's testimony about how the operation worked, threats against her family. It was all there. The jury Thai courts use judges, not juries, but the process is similar, deliberated for 6 hours, found Arun guilty on all counts, sentenced to 12 years in prison. Also ordered to pay restitution to victims. Total amount, $180,000 split among 6 confirmed victims. Dow was found guilty of fraud, but with mitigating circumstances due to coercion. Sentenced to 2 years in prison, suspended pending good behavior and restitution. She'd have to pay back a portion of what she'd taken from victims, from Tyler specifically, $18,000. The amount they'd recovered from frozen accounts Dow had control over. $18,000 out of $40,000. Not full recovery, but something, more than most romance scam victims ever got. After the sentencing, Tyler and I stood outside the courthouse. He was quiet, processing. Finally, he said, "We actually did it. We got justice." I said, "Yeah, we did." Tyler said, "Thank you, Dad, for not giving up, for fighting for me when I couldn't fight for myself." I put my hand on his shoulder, said, "That's what fathers do." Tyler and I flew back to Boston in early July. He'd been away from work for 3 months, used all his vacation time and unpaid leave. But his boss had been understanding, knew what Tyler was going through, held his job, welcomed him back. Tyler received the $18,000 in restitution that fall. Not everything he'd lost, but combined with his salary and resuming normal life, he was slowly rebuilding his savings. He'd moved to a cheaper apartment, was working overtime again, but this time to recover financially, not to escape emotionally. He was also different, stronger, more cautious but not broken. The therapy helped. The justice helped. Knowing that Dow and Arun had faced consequences helped. Tyler said for months after the scam, he'd felt worthless, like he'd been disposable. But fighting back, testifying, seeing them convicted made him feel less like a victim, more like a survivor. I was proud of him. I'd spent 30 years putting criminals away. This one was personal, but the process was the same. Gather evidence, build a case, pursue justice, don't give up. In late 2020, Tyler and I started volunteering with an online organization called Romance Scam Survivors Support Group. We'd share our story. Tyler would talk about being scammed. I'd talk about the investigation. We'd warn others about red flags, about how these scams worked, about protecting yourself without becoming paranoid. Our story resonated. We heard from dozens of people who'd been scammed or who suspected they were being scammed. We'd review their situations, point out warning signs, connect them with resources. Sometimes we'd help people avoid scams entirely. Sometimes we'd help them recover after being victimized. It became a mission, not just for Tyler, for me too. I'd spent my career protecting strangers. Now I was protecting my son and people like him, people who'd been targeted by predators who understood human psychology better than most criminals I'd chased. Tyler eventually started dating again, cautiously, locally. He met a woman named Rachel through mutual friends. She worked as a nurse. They took things slow. No rushing, no big declarations, just steady, gradual building of trust. They got engaged in 2022, married in 2023. I walked Tyler down the aisle, watched him marry a woman who was actually there, real, present, someone who saw Tyler for who he was, not what he had. That's what he deserved all along. That's what Dow had pretended to be but never was. At the reception, Tyler pulled me aside, said he'd been thinking about what I'd done, flying to Thailand, tracking down Dow, fighting for justice. He said most fathers would have said, "I told you so," or let their son deal with the consequences. But I'd fought for him, protected him, refused to let it stand. He said, "Dad, I know I never said this properly, but thank you for everything, for not giving up on me, for showing me that justice is possible, for teaching me that even when bad things happen, good people can fight back." I told him that's what family does. You protect each other. You fight for each other. Nobody gets to hurt your people without consequences. That's not revenge. That's just how it should be. People ask me sometimes, was it worth it? The time, the money, the flights to Thailand, the months away from home, the legal fees, all to recover $18,000 of Tyler's $40,000 and put 2 criminals in prison. My answer is always yes, absolutely, because this was never just about money. It was about showing Tyler that he mattered, that what happened to him wasn't acceptable, that his father would fight for him the same way I'd fought against criminals my whole career. It was also about justice, about making sure Dow and Arun faced consequences, about preventing them from victimizing anyone else. Arun's operation had stolen from at least 6 confirmed foreigners, probably more who never came forward. He'd made nearly $200,000 running romance scams, and he was getting away with it until Tyler's case finally stopped him. Now Arun's in prison for 12 years. Dow served her time and is reportedly out of the scam business. The operation has collapsed. At least 6 other potential victims were saved because Tyler and I fought back. That's worth every dollar I spent, every hour I invested. The experience also taught me things about modern crime that 30 years as a cop hadn't. Romance scams are sophisticated, professional, organized. The people running them understand psychology, know how to identify vulnerable targets, how to build trust, how to extract maximum value before disappearing. They're not smash-and-grab thieves. They're long con artists, patient, methodical, devastating. And they're successful because victims are ashamed to report, don't want to admit they were fooled, don't want family and friends to know they sent thousands of dollars to someone they'd never met. That shame keeps these operations running, keeps criminals unpunished. Tyler breaking his silence, telling me what happened, letting me investigate, testifying in court was brave. Most victims never do that. They suffer silently. The criminals count on that silence. I tell other families, if your son or daughter or spouse is scammed, don't judge them. Don't say, "I told you so." Support them. Help them fight back. Report it. Document everything. Pursue justice even when everyone says it's impossible. Because justice is possible. Not easy, not guaranteed, but possible. Tyler's case proved that. I also learned that international crime is hard to prosecute, but not impossible. Thai police, when given solid evidence and a cooperative victim, will act. The legal system works. Slowly, bureaucratically, but it works. We couldn't have succeeded without Somchai, without Kunvira, without Thai police who took our case seriously. The stereotype that foreign victims get no help in Thailand is wrong. You need evidence. You need witnesses. You need to stay and see it through. But help is available. The key is not giving up. Most victims file a police report, realize how hard prosecution is, and walk away. That's what criminals expect. That's why they keep operating. But if you push, if you build a case, if you refuse to accept nothing can be done, sometimes you win. Not always. Not even most of the time. But sometimes. And Tyler's case was one of those times. I speak at events now sometimes, retirement communities, expat organizations, law enforcement conferences. People want to know how I found Dow, how I built the case, how I navigated Thai legal system. But mostly they want to know, what would you tell other fathers whose sons or daughters have been scammed? My answer, first, believe them. Don't judge. Don't say they were stupid. Romance scam victims are targeted specifically because they're lonely, trusting, hopeful. Those aren't character flaws. Those are human qualities. Criminals weaponize them. Second, document everything. Collect every text, email, photo, bank transfer. Document the victim has. Evidence is everything. Without it, you have nothing. With it, you have a case. Third, act fast. The longer you wait, the colder the trail gets. Money disappears. Scammers move locations. Evidence gets deleted. If you're going to fight back, do it immediately. Fourth, get professional help. Private investigators who specialize in romance scams. Lawyers who understand international fraud. You can't do this alone. I'm a retired cop with decades of investigative experience, and I still needed Somchai and Kunvira. Don't try to be a hero. Hire experts. Fifth, be prepared for it to cost money. Flights, hotels, legal fees, investigator costs. Tyler's case cost me about $25,000 all in. We recovered $18,000 for Tyler, so net cost was $7,000 to put 2 criminals in prison and give my son closure. Worth it? Absolutely. But it's not cheap. Sixth, manage expectations. Full financial recovery is rare. Most scammed money is gone, spent, laundered, untraceable. The goal isn't getting every dollar back. The goal is justice. Accountability, making sure criminals face consequences. Seventh, be patient. International legal cases take time, months, sometimes years. You need to be committed for the long haul. Can't give up after a few weeks. Tyler's case took 5 months from when I arrived in Thailand to final sentencing. That's relatively fast. Some cases take much longer. Eighth, protect your family member's dignity. Tyler was humiliated by what happened. Felt like a fool. I never made him feel worse. Never said, "I told you so." Never treated him like an idiot. He was a victim of professionals. That's not shameful. That's unfortunate. Ninth, focus on the outcome. The goal is stopping criminals, protecting future victims, getting justice. Not revenge, not humiliation. Justice. There's a difference. Revenge is about hurting someone. Justice is about accountability. I wanted Dow and Arun to face legal consequences, not to suffer personally, but to be held accountable through proper channels. 10th, Help your family member rebuild. After the case is over, they need support, therapy, financial planning, emotional recovery. The scam doesn't end when the criminal goes to prison. The victim still has to rebuild their life. Be there for that process. I'm 70 now. 3 years since I flew to Thailand. 3 years since I tracked down the woman who'd scammed my son. Tyler's married now. Happy. Financially recovering. Working. Living. He's okay. And I'm okay too. I don't regret what I did. Don't regret the time or money or effort. I'd do it again tomorrow if necessary. Because that's what fathers do. We protect our children. Even when they're adults. Even when they make mistakes. Even when everyone says to let it go. I spent 30 years chasing criminals. Some got away, some went to prison, some I caught, some I didn't. But I never stopped trying. Never accepted that crime should go unpunished just because it was hard to prosecute. Dao and Arun were just 2 more criminals. Except this time, they'd made it personal. They'd targeted my son. That changed everything. Made it not just professional, but personal. But the process was the same. Evidence, investigation, prosecution, justice. People romanticize detective work. Think it's dramatic, exciting, high-speed chases and shootouts. Reality is, it's boring. It's paperwork. It's knocking on doors. It's asking the same questions 50 times until you get one useful answer. It's patience, persistence, refusing to quit. That's what caught Dao. Not genius detective work, just refusing to quit. Asking around until someone recognized her. Offering money for information until someone talked. Recording conversations. Building evidence. Following procedure. And it worked. Because most criminals aren't masterminds. They're just people who've learned to exploit systems and hope nobody pushes back. When someone does push back with evidence, legal support, and determination, they collapse. Dao collapsed. Arun collapsed. Their operation collapsed. Because Tyler and I refused to accept that nothing could be done. We did something, and it worked. I think about the other 5 victims, the ones who lost money to Arun's operation before Tyler. I wonder if any of them tried to fight back, or if they all just accepted the loss and moved on. If they'd fought, maybe Arun would have been stopped earlier. Maybe Tyler would have been spared. But that's not how it works. Most people don't fight back. They're too ashamed, too defeated, too convinced nothing will help. That's not weakness. That's human. Being scammed is traumatic. Fighting back requires energy most victims don't have. Tyler fought back because I fought for him. Because he had someone who believed him, supported him, did the investigation he couldn't do himself. Not everyone has that. That's why Tyler and I volunteer now. Why we share our story. Why we help other scam victims. Because most don't have a retired cop father willing to fly to Thailand and hunt down their scammer. But they can have a support network, resources, information, encouragement. Sometimes that's enough. We've helped 14 people so far. Some avoided scams entirely after hearing warning signs. Others reported scams and recovered partial losses. 2 others successfully prosecuted their scammers with our help, guiding them through the process. 14 people protected or helped. Because Tyler and I refused to stay silent, refused to let shame and embarrassment win. That's my retirement now. Not sitting on a porch, watching TV, but helping people, protecting people. Same job I had for 30 years. Just different uniform. Tyler says I should write a book, My Father the Hero or something. I tell him I'm not a hero. I'm just a dad who couldn't stand watching his son hurt. Any father would do the same. But I know that's not true. Most fathers would be angry, disappointed, would say, I told you so, and let their son deal with consequences. I've talked to enough families to know. Most shame their victims instead of supporting them. I couldn't do that. Not to Tyler. He's my son. My only child. The best thing Linda and I ever created. When someone hurt him, they hurt me. And I don't let people hurt my family without consequences. That's not hero behavior. That's just being a father. The way fathers should be. Protective, supportive, unwilling to accept injustice against their children. Some people say I went too far, that flying to Thailand was excessive, that spending $25,000 wasn't worth $18,000 recovered, that I should have just let Tyler learn his lesson and move on. Those people don't have children, or they don't love their children the way I love Tyler, Because if they did, they'd understand. You don't abandon your kids when they're hurting. You fight for them. Always. I do it again tomorrow. Fly anywhere. Spend anything. Chase any criminal who hurt my son. Because that's what fathers do. That's what I did. And I do it 1,000 times more. I'm sitting in my living room in Boston, preparing for tonight's video call with the Romance Scam Survivors Support Group. Tyler will join from his house. We do these calls twice a month now. Answer questions, share our story, help people understand they're not alone. Tonight's call has 18 participants, people from 6 countries, all scammed, all trying to rebuild, all looking for hope that justice is possible. I'll tell them what I always tell them. Document everything. Report it. Get professional help. Don't give up. Justice is possible. Not guaranteed, but possible. Tyler will tell them what he always tells them. You're not stupid. You're human. You wanted connection. That's not weakness. Don't let shame stop you from fighting back. Together, we'll give them hope, resources, encouragement. We can't get their money back. Can't undo the pain. But we can show them that fighting back is worth it, that criminals can face consequences, that they're not alone. After the call, Tyler messages me. Thanks for doing this, Dad, for helping these people, for showing me how to turn pain into purpose. I message back. That's what we do. We protect people. That's who we are. He responds, I love you, Dad. I respond, I love you too, son. Always. I close my laptop. Look at the photo on my mantle. Tyler and Rachel's wedding. Tyler in a tuxedo, smiling, happy, whole. Not the broken man I'd found in a dark apartment 3 years ago, but someone who'd survived, rebuilt, thrived. That's what matters. Not the money, not the conviction, but Tyler being okay. I spent 30 years chasing criminals, put hundreds away, but the most important case wasn't one from my career. It was the one I took after retirement. The one where the victim was my son. And I'd do it again tomorrow. Because that's what fathers do. We protect our children, no matter what. No matter where. No matter the cost. Dow thought she could destroy my son and disappear. She was wrong. Because she didn't just scam Tyler. She scammed a cop's kid. And cops, even retired ones, don't let that go. Justice isn't revenge. It's just balance. And I balanced the scales. For Tyler, for the other victims, for everyone who's ever been told nothing can be done. Something can be done. You just have to be willing to do it. If you found this story valuable, please subscribe to support more investigative documentaries about love scams and true crime. Your support helps me continue creating these important stories. Thank you for watching.